The fluorescent lights of the small grocery store flickered softly, casting a pale glow on the linoleum floors. Outside, the late autumn wind rattled the windows, carrying a chill that seemed to seep into everything it touched. Inside, amidst the scattered shoppers and the quiet hum of checkout scanners, a young woman moved hesitantly down the aisles. Her purse was light, almost empty, and her heart felt heavier than the worn cardigan she clutched around her shoulders. Her name was Emily Parker, and she had spent the last several months grappling with a series of misfortunes that left her on the brink of despair. Emily paused at the produce section, her fingers brushing over the colorful fruits and vegetables, each vibrant piece a cruel reminder of what she could not afford. She had been unemployed for months, her savings dwindling rapidly, and the rent for her tiny apartment in Springfield, Illinois, was overdue. She had skipped meals herself to make sure her young daughter, Lily, had something to eat, and the guilt weighed on her like an anchor. Today, she had come to the grocery store with a single, desperate intention to buy at least a few essentials for the week. But as she checked the small stack of bills in her wallet, her stomach twisted. It wasn't enough, not even close. Her hand lingered on a bag of apples, shiny and red, the kind Lily loved. She imagined her daughter's face lighting up, the laughter that followed when Lily bit into the crisp sweetness. But she knew she couldn't. She simply couldn't buy them. With a quiet, defeated sigh, Emily turned toward the exit, her shoulders slumping under the weight of disappointment. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to our channel because stories like Emily's remind us how one small act can change a life forever. As she walked past the checkout lines, her eyes flicked nervously around the store. She hoped no one would notice the shame she carried. The shame of having to leave empty-handed, the shame of being unable to provide. That's when it happened. A tug at her sleeve startled her, and she turned to see a man standing beside her. His name was Mark Reynolds, a man in his early 40s with a kind face marked by faint lines of worry and wisdom. His brown hair was slightly tousled, and his eyes, a deep hazel, held a warmth that instantly felt like a quiet embrace. He was pushing a small cart filled with groceries, and he looked at her with a gentle, almost knowing expression. "Hey," he said softly, though Emily barely heard him over the storm of her thoughts. "You forgot this." In his hand was a small, neatly wrapped grocery bag. She blinked, confusion and embarrassment warring across her face. I don't, Emily stammered, her voice trembling. She wanted to refuse, to explain that she didn't deserve this, that she would figure it out somehow. But Mark only shook his head, a patient, understanding smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Consider it a little help," he said simply, then added softly, "for you and your daughter." Tears pricked the corners of Emily's eyes. She wanted to speak, to thank him properly, but the words stuck in her throat. For a moment she just clutched the bag, feeling the weight of generosity, the warmth of human kindness she had almost forgotten existed. In that brief encounter, everything, the exhaustion, the worry, the fear, seemed to lift just slightly. Emily had been a woman who prided herself on independence, on handling life's hardships alone. Asking for help had never come easily, and receiving it was even harder. Yet here, in the middle of a mundane grocery store, a stranger had seen her struggle, had acknowledged it, and had offered a hand without judgment. That simple act of compassion stirred something inside her, a fragile, flickering hope. As she made her way home, the streets bathed in the muted glow of late afternoon sunlight, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Mark and his quiet generosity. She thought about Lily, who would be waiting with wide, hopeful eyes, never knowing how close they had come to going to bed hungry tonight. When she finally walked through the door of her small apartment, Lily ran into her arms and Emily held her tightly, the bag of groceries cradled beside them. For the first time in weeks, Emily allowed herself a moment of relief. She unpacked the apples, bread, and milk, feeling the weight of gratitude pressing on her chest. She whispered a silent promise to herself and to Lily. She would keep going. She would survive. And one day, she would pass on this kindness, this unexpected miracle, to someone else who needed it just as desperately. Over the next few days, Emily found herself thinking about Mark often. She wondered about his life, his family, and the moments that led him to be in the right place at the right time. She imagined him returning to his own home, his young son waiting for him, perhaps teaching him the same lessons of empathy and compassion he had so effortlessly shared. Mark was a single dad, too, balancing work and life, raising a child with a determination Emily could admire. And yet, even with his own responsibilities, he had paused to help someone he didn't know, a stranger in need. The story of that small act of kindness began to ripple through Emily's life. She started paying closer attention to the people around her, noticing the elderly man struggling with his groceries, the young mother juggling twins, the cashier who always seemed a little too tired to smile. Inspired by Mark's example, Emily began to find ways to help, however small. Donating a few dollars when she could, sharing a meal with a neighbor, leaving a kind note for a stranger. Each act was a thread in the fabric of hope she was slowly weaving around herself and Lily. But life's challenges didn't pause. A week after the grocery store encounter, Emily received a notice about a past-due utility bill. The apartment manager's letter left her stomach in knots. She had no savings left, and Lily's school required new supplies she couldn't afford. It was in that moment, standing in her modest kitchen, that Emily remembered Mark. She didn't know his last name or how to reach him, but she remembered the quiet, unwavering way he had extended his hand. And for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine a world where help could come, sometimes from the most unexpected places. That evening, Emily decided to visit the grocery store again, not expecting anything, but hoping perhaps to find someone who could guide her, even with a small gesture of advice or support. To her surprise, Mark was there. He was arranging vegetables, his cart empty this time, focused and calm. Emily's heart raced as she approached him, the memory of his kindness both comforting and terrifying in its intensity. I don't know if you remember me, she began, her voice catching. I'm Emily Parker. You helped me last week. Mark turned, his face lighting up with recognition. Emily, of course I remember. How are you? I'm managing, she said softly, the understatement making her chuckle nervously. It's been hard. I don't know how to handle all of it sometimes. Mark nodded, listening with the patient attentiveness of someone who had faced his own struggles and emerged with empathy and tact. I can imagine, he said, raising a child alone, handling everything. It's not easy, but you're doing it, and sometimes we all need a little help along the way. Emily swallowed, her throat tight with gratitude and emotion. There was no judgment in his eyes, no condescension, only a shared humanity, a recognition of life's challenges and the resilience it demanded. She felt a surge of courage, a determination to keep moving forward, no matter how steep the path ahead seemed. Over the following weeks, a quiet friendship blossomed between Emily and Mark. They shared tips about parenting, stories about their children, and laughter over small, everyday mishaps. Emily discovered that Mark had been a widower for several years, raising his son Noah on his own. The strength it took to balance work, parenting, and personal grief impressed her deeply. In turn, Emily shared her own journey, her dreams for Lily, and the fears that often left her sleepless at night. Together they found solace and support in one another, a partnership born of compassion, understanding, and the simple act of reaching out. Through Mark's encouragement, Emily applied for a local job at a community center, one she had hesitated to pursue out of fear of rejection. With his guidance, she prepared her resume, practiced interview questions, and approached the opportunity with newfound confidence. When she received the call offering her the position, she cried openly, the tears mingling relief and pride. It was more than just employment. It was a lifeline, a chance to reclaim stability and provide for Lily in ways she hadn't dared to imagine. Months passed and Emily's life gradually shifted from a place of scarcity to one of possibility. She and Lily were able to move into a slightly larger apartment, one with a small backyard where Lily could play and explore. The pantry, once bare, was now stocked with the basics, thanks in part to careful budgeting and the occasional small gesture of support from Mark. And though life was not without its challenges, Emily carried herself with a quiet strength, a sense of hope rooted in both her own resilience and the kindness she had been shown. One crisp winter evening, as snow began to fall softly over Springfield, Emily found herself walking past the grocery store where it all began. She glanced at the familiar aisles, the checkout lines, and the produce section, and her heart swelled with gratitude. She thought of Mark, of that first bag of groceries, of the invisible thread of compassion that had tied their lives together in a way neither could have anticipated. Emily realized that life's hardest moments often hold the potential for the most profound connections. Sometimes it only takes one person noticing, one act of kindness, to alter the course of someone's journey. And sometimes that simple gesture can inspire a ripple effect, spreading hope far beyond the original moment. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps stories of hope and kindness reach more people who need them. And before you leave, please comment below and share the last time someone's simple act of kindness changed your day. You might inspire someone else today. As Emily watched the snow blanket the streets in soft white, she held Lily's hand a little tighter, feeling the warmth of home, of safety, and of love. She understood now that struggles were temporary, but the bonds forged through empathy, generosity, and shared humanity could last a lifetime. And in the quiet of that snowy evening, she smiled, knowing that the world, despite its hardships, was still full of people like Mark, people who saw, who cared, and who extended their hands when they could. It was a small tug on a sleeve, a gesture almost too simple to seem important. But for Emily Parker, it was the beginning of everything. The beginning of hope, of friendship, of resilience, and of a life where kindness always found its way home.